My next guest is making his long-awaited UFC debut, going to be taking on Vince Morales, UFC Fight Night, February 15th. It is Elijah Smith back here on the program. Elijah, how you doing, man?
And I'm doing great. I hope you're doing good as well.
I'm doing awesome. I was telling you off air, I'm a little jealous of your setup here. I know you've been doing some streaming. How's that going as sort of a side hustle to the fight career?
Yeah, streaming is going good. I like to do my streams and just showing a different aspect of myself. Sometimes on the stream I do like fight breakdowns of UFC fights, or another thing I do on the stream is play the game, stream while I'm playing the game with the guys. Just showing a different aspect and letting people, more fans, get to know me a little bit more.
Yeah, no, it's smart. Get the brand out there, and just if you're going to play video games anyways, you might as well try and make some money off it, or at least get people invested in what you're into as well, which is great.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this fight. So I spoke to Vince yesterday. I understand you guys did train like a little bit before this fight was booked. I know you guys aren't like close friends or anything, but take me through how this fight got put together. And I should also mention that you guys both have the same management as well too.
Yeah. So how this fight got put together on my side was, first, he wasn't my first opponent that they had offered me. They actually offered me Cameron Simon. Yeah, that was the first guy that they offered me for February 15th. But they said they offered me, I accepted. Then they came back to me and said that he wasn't going to be available for that date. So I was like, all right, whatever. On to the next. And so probably like a week went by, and then my manager, he hit me up. He was like, all right, we got a name for you, Vince Morales. Check him out. And I was like, oh, I don't even need to check him out. I already know who he is. Yeah, I mean, I have video on my phone of me and him sparring about like 3 years ago. This was back in 2.5 years ago. This was back in 2022. I was still an amateur at the time, and I think this was his first stint in the UFC.
Right. Yeah.
And yeah, we got some good rounds together. Uh, and I don't want to base that off of now, because I know I've gotten better. I mean, since then I've turned pro, and now I'm 7-1 as a pro, and I'm sure he's gotten better and learned a lot, because he got cut from the UFC, and then also and then just got signed back to the UFC. So in order to do that, you have to show a level of growth. So I think we both have shown that within these last few years, and it's just kind of ironic that now we're getting ready to fight each other, and it's just part of the business, nothing personal.
Yeah, it's the way things work out. I imagine, too, you wanted to fight a bit sooner than this. I know when you win on Contender Series, they kind of have to, they already sort of make the schedule, and then the Contender Series fighters, the winners, they sort of have to filter them in a bit. But I imagine you wanted to fight sooner.
Yeah, I wanted to fight in December. I was trying to get that get one of the December cards, either the 7th or the 14th. But it didn't happen. I understand they have, 100 different fighters that they're trying to get booked. So I wanted to get back in there, because of course, I don't get paid if I don't fight. So I'm looking for another paycheck, another paycheck and another win to really cement my self in the UFC. But it's whatever. It gave me time to really enjoy the holidays, something that I'm not typically used to, because usually I'm always, for the past like 3 years, I've always been fighting in December, always around the holidays. So I never get that relaxed time throughout the holidays. But it was cool, because now I actually have a full fight camp. It gave me more time to prepare, so there's no excuses this time around.
Yeah, no, well said. And fighting Vince Morales, we mentioned it there, second stint for him in the UFC, 16-8 record. You obviously know him pretty well, but just stylistically, how are you looking at this fight?
I see this fight just being a grinder. Like, I think I obviously have the speed and the youth advantage. And he has the experience, and he's just he's a tough guy. Like, there's nothing that Vince, he's good at a lot of things, but he's not great at one thing. So yeah, I think that the thing with Vince is that you have to really, because I want to go in there, and my thought is always to get the finish. So if I want to get the finish, I have to really, really work for this, because he's not one of those guys that's just gonna sit down and or just lay down for me. Like, I have to go out there, and I gotta take his will to win. And we've been putting together a great fight camp to go out there and establish that.
Take me through camp a little bit. Who you getting to work with? Who are some of the main training partners? And like I said, you got like it seems like a full camp for this one too, right?
Yeah, I mean, still like fight camp. As everybody knows, my pops, he's my head coach,
Mhm.
trainer, strength and conditioning coach. Um, been working with him. A lot of the guys, like my guy Dylan or Dylan King or Carlos Rivera, Justin Campos, who's my Muay Thai kickboxing coach. And then we've been doing a lot of cross training, going down to there's a college down in Pueblo, Colorado, CSU Pueblo, Colorado Springs University of Pueblo. Wrestling with those guys down there, and then we also been cross training up in Denver at Factory X.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, with Chris Gutierrez, who's been the main guy that I've been training with and getting a lot of sparring rounds when I go up there. Uh, Mainly because he's one of the best, fighters, one of the best fighters at the bantamweight division in the UFC, and also he's fought my opponent. So just giving me some insight, getting me some tips, and as he's getting ready for, as I'm helping him get ready for his fight, he's helping me get ready for my fight. So it's really cool.
How did that get linked up with you doing some cross training at Factory X? I know your dad, I believe, originally was training at Factory X a long time ago, and then obviously I know your management has some ties to them too. But how did that conversation go with you training over there?
It kind of just came down to just like what you said. My dad, Mark Montoya used to be my dad's coach.
Yeah.
Um, and we kind of made that connection back when I was getting ready to turn pro. Um, to really cross train with each other. And Factory X is one of those gyms that they don't just open their doors up to anybody. So the fact that they were able to take us in and help me grow, it really means a lot. Because like I said, they're really closed off gym. Like they're not a syndicate or extreme couture where you have different fighters coming in and out. And nah, they have their team and they're cut off from everybody else. So it was really dope that they opened up their doors for me to come in and train.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think Vince might have trained at Factory X a little bit too, like a couple of years ago, but not enough where it's like, the guys are familiar with him or anything along those lines as well.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. I believe he did. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like I did see him train there at one point, just like a short stint or whatever, nothing like he was part of the team or anything like that. So a lot of little connections here going into this fight, which is kind of interesting.
Fight world. Yeah. I mean, when I was just out in Vegas, it just felt so like I was out in Vegas about like a couple of weeks ago and just training at the PI, and I like training. I like Vegas and everything. I like training out there, but it's just something about like guys like bouncing around. I don't know. I just really don't click with that because you always, you're probably gonna end up training with the guy who you might fight,
Mhm.
and I don't know. I just don't like. I mean, the bodies are cool,
Mhm.
but me, I like to have a team. I like to
Yeah.
have a team, and I don't like to bounce around. I like to, like this is my squad. This is my team over here. My team against yours. That's kind of how I feel. But out in Vegas, it's kind of like nomads, like a bunch of nomads. They're trying to figure out where they can fit in.
Yeah, I agree. And then, you might run into your opponent. I know he trains at Syndicate. That's not really the PI or anything, but that's
It's either Syndicate or Extreme Couture out
exactly.
there. So you're gonna find yourself at one of those gyms if you're an MMA fighter.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Speaking of your team, your corner, I imagine your dad will be in the cage with you. Who's making the trip out there to Vegas with you for the fight?
Yeah, so it'd be my kickboxing coach, Justin Campos, who's also in my corner for the Contender Series, and then another one of my long-term training partners, somebody who I looked up to before I even started fighting. His name is Dylan King, and it just I like to have him around because he's another similar body type, and I like to be when it comes down to corners. I don't like anybody random just in my corners. I want people around me who's been grinding with me, who's been just been grinding with me, and they understand me the most and give me a more comfortable environment. Because sometimes you get into the limelight and you get overstimulated about the bright lights, and you're on ESPN Plus and you got this and that, and sometimes you just need comfortable people or people that you're comfortable around to bring you back down to normal and just normalize everything.
Yep, well said. How's this one playing out on February 15th? How do you see it going down?
like I said, I'm trying to go out there and I'm trying to get the finish. Whether if it's knockout or submission, I'm trying to get a finish. Um, that's I you know the that's kind of how I want my debut to go. You know, what other way can I make a splash in the UFC by going out there and putting Vince Morales away? Um, and shoot, I'm gonna try to. It probably won't happen, but if I get that finish, man, of course, you know I'm gonna be calling out Dana White like, yo, I'm trying to get the bonus. You know, my daughter out here calling, she want to go to Disneyland, so you know I
Yeah.
gotta make a little wiggle room for that. So yeah, no, definitely, that's kind of how I see the February 15th going. It's just me getting the finish. I don't know how, whether if it's by knockout or submission. I just know a finish. A finish is bound to come. It's
Um,
gonna be an exciting one no matter what. So
yeah.
I just want people I want people to know like this is not the first of all, this fight card February 15th, the whole fight card is explosive. I mean, I think it's gonna be one of those fight cards that where like people they don't really it's gonna be an underrated card. And when they see the highlights, they're gonna be like, damn, I should have watched that.
Mhm.
So either way, like not just my fight, but the whole card is gonna be explosive, man, for real.
You mentioned, wanting to get into being like a little bit of an analyst and all that stuff, and you're doing the streaming. We obviously have the title fight next week in your weight class. We got Merab, we got Umar. How do you think that fight plays out, just from your perspective as a fan and now a fellow UFC fighter?
Yeah, ooh.
I know I'm
For
putting you on the
some
spot
reason,
here.
yeah, yeah, I like I like Islam. So funny story. So when I was out there, I got to while I was doing my training at the PI, ran into Umar and I ran into Islam, and those guys are workaholics. Those guys are really workaholics, and they know how to they know how to fight and they know what the grind is about. But on the other hand, for some reason, I do like Armand. I do.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's just like maybe because for him it's like this is really like a hobby for him.
Mhm.
Like so I don't know. But I really like his fight style. And you know what? I would like to see Armand win. I would like to see Armand come out on top. Just to mix up the division and then for Umar and Merab, man, I think Umar I'm gonna go with Umar just because when you have two good wrestlers and you know Umar last name is Nurmagomedov, so you put that together and I think when you have like I said when you have two wrestlers go up against each other it kind of cancels out, so it's gonna go down to who has the best striking. And if we're thinking about who has the best striking, I think Umar has the better striking. So I'm gonna go Armand and Umar.
How were your holidays? Did you get a little bit of time? I'm sure, having your dad, I'm sure he's like, keeping things on track and still getting to enjoy a little bit of the holidays too.
Yeah, I mean, holidays were great. Yeah, still, I mean, we still trained on Christmas Eve, trained New Year's Eve, trained on New Year's. I mean, it doesn't necessarily stop, especially when you know you have a big fight coming up. I mean, every fight is a big fight, but none of them will. Any fight after this will never amount to this one because you only get one UFC debut. So, yeah, I'm treating this. I mean, like it's everything, like a title fight. Um, since I won my contender series match or fight, I always told myself like, okay, I have to. I just instilled it in my head like I have to win my debut. That's not even like I hope I have to. There's no way other way around it. I have to go out and win.
There we go. Elijah, thanks for doing this, man. We're looking forward to it. UFC Fight Night, February 15th. Anyone you want to thank, any sponsors, any social media, and where we can find you streaming and all that, by all means, the floor is yours.
Yeah, definitely. So I want to thank my number one sponsor, Sheath Underwear. Shout out to Robert and everything that he does for me. Shout out to Trainwreck. That's where we watch all the fights and stream the fights, which that's where I will be. They'll be hosting my fight there February 15th. I'd like to thank all my coaches, my pops, Justin, Dylan, Carlos, Factory X, Victory MMA. And again, you can find me on all my platforms on YouTube. It's Shakur the Bag. TikTok, same thing, Shakur the Bag. My YouTube, Shakur the Bag or Elijah UFC. You could also find me on Twitch at Elijah Smith UFC. So make sure that you guys tune in. I'm always posting out content, especially with this build up into the next fight, stuff that you guys don't want to miss. So, yeah.